G'day and welcome back for more Survival Impossible. Last time, what I said I was going to do was do a few little bits and pieces around the base first and then start work on a big project. What I think I'm going to do is, in terms of the little project, fix up this office with a few of the ideas I was given in the comments that were, well, a lot more sensible than the approach that I ended up taking. So I would like to fix a few things in here first. And then what I'm going to do is move on to a big project. And it's going to be the start of quite a substantial project indeed. I want to build a rocket. And that rocket is going to be, as I've mentioned before, a multi-stage thing with recoverable lower stages. And it's going to take a while to put together. So I want to get started on it while I've still got a decent amount of resources. We have a look. I think I've still got something close to 60,000 iron. Yeah, so we've got, what's that work out to be? 58,500. That'll be enough to get the rocket built and probably still have some left over even after I do a little bit of work in here and probably a little bit of work in the hangar. So let's get to it. First off, what I would like to do is make this airlock a whole lot better. I was a dope. Why did I make a second airlock in here? This was just a big waste of resources. I didn't need this thing in here. All I needed to do was put another door right here. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put another door in there. So, time to grind a hole in the wall. This allows me to point out one of the small mod changes that's been made since my last recording as well. Thraxis has updated the scrap mod to make it so that the scrap that's generated from the components actually has volume and mass. So now, no more using scrap to grind down an entire giant ship and have it all fit in your inventory. It's not going to work. I believe he's also changed some of the yields you get from those components. I can't remember what the initial was, and I think he set the maximum to now 75% of the original cost. So because I'm going to be putting a door in down here, I don't need the old airlock, so I'm going to get rid of all of it. And then let's grab the stuff I need for a door. Add another sliding door here. And there we go. We now have a much better designed airlock. Ugh, so much better than the previous design that I had. I'm going to rearrange these vents, get rid of this window. We don't need a double vent in here. And, maybe what I'll do is get rid of this conveyor, get rid of this vent. So I've gotten rid of the two doors that were down here. I'm getting rid of this button panel. I'm going to get rid of this vent, or actually I could leave that vent. I should leave that vent. That's now the office vent. And then I'm going to bring this conveyor tube straight across to this conveyor junction here, which is fine because it needs to stay for the outside connection. If I then get rid of the cargo container and move it down to here, I could put a ladder like this on there and then on there, and then have catwalks above on the conveyor tubes so that I've got somewhere to overlook my design as I work on it. Yeah, cargo container. A lot of people also wanted to encourage me to put some windows in here. Something that would give the people inside the office the ability to see what's going on in the garage. And I do like that idea, but there's one aspect of it that I don't like, and that's making me toss up whether I should do this or not. I had originally desired to have stuff right up against the wall here, like desks up against the wall, and have decorative stuff right up against the wall here. But I can't do that if I put a window in, because we don't have any window blocks that are the full block width. So if I put anything in here, I can't really lean stuff up against it like I would like, as I would like. But I think if I get rid of this one, well, I think I'm probably not going to be able to do that in here, to be honest. So I'm going to get rid of this block here and place a window in across these two. One of these armored windows. There we go. This gives a bit of a more open plan in here, and then I need to pop my conveyor tube in. something you can see flashing in the middle of my screen towards the top is a power warning. That's because Norca fixed up their mod that was allowing me to have O2 warnings and power warnings and all sorts of nice warnings to help me not die. So hopefully, and thank you very much for fixing up that mod, hopefully this is going to mean that there will be fewer moments where I am desperately out of oxygen, or at least out of oxygen so much that I get injured. Which will mean I can make progress more quickly again because I'm not having to stand around waiting for my health to come back. Because, ugh, hate doing that. Right. Let's do a little bit of decorative work in here because I'd like this room to feel complete. I think what I'm going to turn this into is sort of a break room slash office with probably this is going to be the only desk because I can't think of a way that I'd have more than one desk in here. A break room's going to need a kitchen. I can put a kitchen down here, I think. I go kitchen there. Then I'm going to put a couch. Don't think I can really put a corner in there, but that kind of makes it awkward to come through the door. What if I'd go with a straight couch there and another one there, then put a couple of crates there. That leaves it open a bit. There's a bit of decorative clutter. I could put another crate or two over here as well if I want to. Don't think this is quite the place that it'd have planters. That's why I've used a couch as the kind of wall here. Might just leave that free of the freight containers for the moment. Weld this up and then see what else needs to be added. You may be wondering why I put the kitchen facing against the wall there. It felt weird to me to have a kitchen where you could drop stuff off the back onto someone's head as they're coming up the stairs. It's just odd. So that's why I don't think having a kitchen with an open splashback against a drop is a good idea. It just doesn't feel like something you would see in a real space occupied by people. Okay, I need to get some railings in here. Let's get rid of this corner light. And I've got some room over here for it. So hopefully I'll be able to reach. Ah, there we go. There's my O2 warning. But proof that the HUD mod is working and is doing its thing of saving me from me. Ooh, do I want to put the light all the way up the top or should I put it there? No, I can't put it there. That'll block what I'm trying to do. Can I reach? Nope. Okay, with the light up there, now I can do this. I can place a straight railing there and one behind the chair. I feel like you need the one behind the chair so that it doesn't look like the chair is there acting as the railing, even though it kind of is. Again, just one of those things that you expect to see more of a railing system in a proper building, or at least in a modern day building. I know I don't do a lot of things that are OH&S, or, sorry, that's the very Australian way of saying it, occupational health and safety, or workplace safety, or whatever the term is wherever you live. I don't do a lot of stuff that's like that, but I still don't want to be quite Star Wars about it. There we go. I know they're floating a little bit, but just going to have to live with that. Nothing I can do. Cool. So we've got some decorative blocks in here, but as many of you have been pointing out, I'm using too much rusted paint. Way too much. So I'm going to do a little bit of painting in here. I'm also going to need to come up with a better way of keeping these air vents off so they're not using up 100 kilowatts of power all the time. Because ideally what I'd like is to have this area constantly pressurized, the airlock constantly depressurized, and then those vents turned off when they reach that mark. And I should be able to achieve that with some sensors, which I'll do shortly, but I'm going to do the painting first and then I'll do the sensor. So I need to produce myself a paint gun and some paint. This is absolutely one of my favorite mods of all time, this paint gun. Digi did such an awesome job with it. It just allows you to do so much that the vanilla painting tool doesn't allow you to do. one of the things I was thinking about, and that I haven't come up with a great solution for yet, is the fact that I want the outside of the building to have the rusted look. Unfortunately, what that means is that the rusted look's also going to be visible on the inside because we can't paint faces of blocks in Space Engineers. That also means that the rusted look is going to have to dominate a lot of my build so that I don't have a weirdly rusted interior on one wall and not on the other. Because that's just odd. So a lot of my walls are going to remain rusty, but I'm going to change the rest of the bits in the build to something not rusty so that it's less overwhelming. Like, looking at this, with rust on everything, it just looks awful. It kind of ends up going a bit camo, and you can't even... like, the individual blocks don't stand out anymore. And I want to change that. So for the floor, I'm going to do what I did out in the garage and just change it over to the battered skin. 1 pixel. Yes, got it! So that would have been impossible to paint without painting everything if I was using the standard painting tool. Now, I think that's actually going to have to go back to being rusty. Because it's going to look weird beside these walls, which are also going to remain rusty. The conveyor, on the other hand, should be able to go to no skin, and I'm tempted to make it red. Red conveyor. Maybe not. Maybe red crates. Maybe orange conveyor system is the way to go. Something that's a bit of a warning kind of setup, I think would look good. Or better. Vent can be white. Orange for the junction. Orange for the container. Then I'm going to do orange for this stuff in the stairwell as well. Now, I've recently discovered that painting these in battered, to me, makes the whole thing feel like plastic. So I'm not really keen on painting stairs or railings in the battered, very matte finish. I think they look much better when they're slightly metallic like this. I could see... there's frozen look on them. Okay, it does actually look icy. I was hoping it'll look more worn than frozen, but it doesn't. What does rusty look with the orange? Ah. Actually, that's a cool idea. I'm going to make the stairs rusty, because it makes them look worn. Then what I'm going to do, these bits that don't get handled as much are going to get no skin. Yeah. Now, colour for couches. That is too much colour. How about that? Red. Go back to orange for these. I think this is kind of coming along a bit. I'm not sure how I feel about these junctions being like that, actually. I think I'm going to go back to putting them as rusty and white, because they're kind of part of the wall more than they are part of the conveyor system, at least visually. Yeah, that's better. There's less overwhelmingly orange in here. So we've got a little bit of orange on the container, a little bit of red on the couches. I don't like the look of that in red. It's just a bit much for a kitchen, so I'm going to keep it white. So even with all the walls in rust, I think adding this extra color around the place, making sure the conveyors are orange, and there's a bit more to break up what's around, I think this has made a big improvement to this space. And I'm quite happy with it. A really cool suggestion that was made in the comments last time was to make these freight containers into emergency backup oxygen places. So putting oxygen bottles in them. And I think I will do that, not for the one that's in here because, well, I don't need it. This is a pressurized space, but for anywhere else around the place. Also, this has a direct access to cargo, so anywhere that's a little bit further away and that I think I can get away with putting a couple of these containers down, I'm going to pop them down and put some bottles in them for emergencies. So I wanted to make the use of the vents a little more power efficient, and sensors should allow that to happen. Something that I'd never tested before, but I recently checked, is that sensors, even when they're sensing a huge area, use up an awful lot less power than one of these vents. These vents using up 100 kilowatts. So 100 kilowatts is more than one of my wind turbines. That's why I can't leave the vents on all the time. But what if the vents just turned on when I enter the space and turn off when I leave it. I can do that really easily with the sensor. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a sensor in here. I'm going to put a sensor in the airlock. And anytime I enter the volume, the vent will turn on. Anytime I exit, it'll turn off. And that means I shouldn't need to control the vents as long as I'm watching my HUD for whether I've got the space vented of air or not. So let's turn show on HUD on, info, show sensor field range. And let's get this thing set up with build vision because it is so much easier. So let's push that right out to the wall. The right extent, let's push it right out to that wall. Bottom extent. This can actually come up. It doesn't need to be all the way down in the stairs because I'm not going to go down there very often. So as long as I'm only down there for a short period of time, I won't run out of air in this volume. That vent can go off as soon as I go down the stairs. Top extent can come right down because I don't need that area. Back can come in until the window. And front extent, same thing up until the wall. Audible off, detect players on, and let's set this up to work with this air vent, which I need to name. Actions, garage. What? What you doing to me, game? That's not okay. Steve was recording. Oh. Now, let's try that again. Oh, it was before I did on my sensor. Alright, I'll fix up the extents shortly. Oh, I haven't named the thing. At least it wasn't that far back, I guess. Okay, setup actions. Garage. Turn block on when I enter, turn block off when I exit. Done. Now, when I go down these stairs, hopefully it's turned off. Can I see it? Yeah, I can see it. There we go. Vent is off. I am outside the volume. Cool. And vent turns on. So anytime I'm in here, it'll be trying to pressurize it, and it'll only have that vent as the only vent that is on in the whole base, ideally. Showing HUD off, and then I can build another one into the airlock. Right, so for this airlock, I've got the vent on depressurize, and it'll turn off as soon as I exit any of these doors. So if I go back through here into the main office, close that, and then we go to air vent, office airlock, it is off. And the one in the office is on. Hopefully this will make the airlocks a lot more efficient, a lot easier for me to use, and prevent volumes like this office in here ever being fully depressurized, because that vent will turn on the moment I come inside, so it should fill fairly quickly, or never really get emptied. I think my oxygen tank is full at the moment, so that's why this isn't removing the air from the airlock. Actually, yeah, I'm going to do that. Another nice thing about the about the painting tool is that it slowly builds up the saturation in the paint. So you can end up with looks like this, where you've got slightly different tinges of paint color, which I think suits a hangar that's in active use. Stuff will get worn. It won't all be kept pristine and perfect all the time. So I think it works. I think I'm going to put the double railing catwalks up here. I quite like having the railing against the wall as another bit to break things up and make it a bit more interesting. I think I'm going to have to wait until that wall is fully welded up before I decide whether that's too much orange with the catwalks being orange as well, or if it works because the back wall is going to be predominantly white with maybe some different greys in there to add some variety. At the moment it feels a bit much, but that could be because there's nothing backing it. There's nothing to diminish its overwhelming bright orangeness. But that's not too bad. I dislike that there's no join between that catwalk and the ladder, but I think it's something I'm just going to have to learn to live with. There's no other way to do it, so that the ladder will actually drop me on the catwalk. That means it's time to get this cargo out of here to get rid of this connector. I would like to clear at least this much of it out before I start the rocket build. Before I start placing down the blocks for this thing, I want to talk about the 3 different stages that I'd like this rocket to have. The base stage, which I think I'll work on last, since it's going to have to attach to the other stages and I'd like to know how they're going to fit together. The base stage is going to be a predominantly atmospheric stage, so it'll have big atmospheric thrusters that are strong enough to lift the whole rocket without any hydrogen assistance. They will throw the rocket up into the atmosphere as high as they can, hopefully getting me far enough up that when I start to kick in my hydrogen engines, hydrogen thrusters I should say, I won't need all that much to get to space. They'll detach, they'll drop back down to Earth with parachutes, and then I'll go collect them with my crane truck and bring them back home so that I can reuse it. I'll have to make sure I have a beacon on there, and then I have enough energy for that beacon to remain functional even while my rocket is up in space. Then there'll be the main body of the rocket, which will have hydrogen thrust, it'll have some cargo space, it'll probably have a drill on it, and then attached to that will be my crew module. I wasn't originally going to go with a crew module, but there's a problem that happens with space engineers, which is if you go to space with a remote control vehicle and you don't have a person, you won't actually get asteroids spawning, so I'm told. I haven't tested this myself, but I was told this. But there's also another issue. I can't build if I use a remote control. So if I eventually want to build up there, I'd have to rebuild the rocket so that it has that capability. So what I'm going to do is build it so it can take crew. But the first crew it's going to take is going to be a crash test dummy, otherwise known as Steve. Steve is going to go up on the rocket first. The reason Steve's going to go up on the rocket first is, one, it should get around that issue with the asteroids, but two, I'll get a third-person perspective recorded of the launch, which I really want to use, so that I can show it off to you guys, because I'm going to be running everything from first person through cameras. Steve isn't really a test dummy, because it's not really going to tell me whether I would have survived up there, because Steve doesn't eat, drink, or breathe. Or, actually, I think he does breathe. I think he does use up the oxygen in here, but I've got him set to invulnerable, so he doesn't need to do any of those other things. He really is just an inert thing that looks like it breathes. So that is the plan. The crew module, I think I might work on first. I'd like to have it independently pilotable, so that if I get attacked up there, because there are enemies up in space, if I get attacked up there, I can ditch the main module and just come down on the crew module alone. Let's bring the Splitsie inside the garage so I can work on this thing. And the first part I'm going to work on is going to be the command and control module. So it's going to have a cockpit, but it's not just going to have a cockpit. It's also going to have a... Oh, there we go, that's what I... It's also going to have a remote control. So I can remote control it, but the cockpit will be where Steve will sit so that I can get my pretty camera angles. So I think it should be plainly obvious by this stage that such things are very important to me. I love being able to show you guys interesting perspectives on stuff that we don't normally get to see, because we're normally stuck in our one perspective. So, crew module. Let's clear this out. We're going to need to have a cockpit. And I'm not going for a pressurized small grid interior, I'm just going to go for a cockpit. Keep this simple. Want a remote control as well, we're going to need some cameras. I would like to have a big battery. Oh, don't tell me. Oh. I totally forgot I had progression on. I have not unlocked the hydrogen thruster. I'm going to have to build a small hydrogen tank first. Okay. So this thing's going to have a few small hydrogen tanks. There we go, there's my O2 warning saving me. There we go. Hydrogen thrusters unlocked. Yes, wasted a bit of material, but oh well. Then we need hydrogen thrusters, we're going to need a gyro on it. And parachutes. Going to need the parachutes. So basically this thing will be able to ditch behind whatever other stages if it needs to, but that won't be the idea. The idea will be for it to remain attached and fly home with the main module, with the main stage. Gonna need merge block. So what I'm thinking is the main stage will have this command module kind of mounted on the side. If you imagine the main stage being a roughly rocket-shaped thing, this will be bolted onto the side. And then you'll have the main stage, and then down the base of the main stage we'll have bolted probably 2 booster stages, one on each side, connected with merge blocks so that I can detach them and go and pick them up later. So if we're going to be mounting this on the side of the main stage,
Energy low.
I need a few interior plate. So if I start with a merge block, now this is obviously not the orientation that I'm actually building the ship in, this is just how I'm starting this part of it. What I want is the merge block facing down, which is going to be how this thing clips onto the side of the rocket. So merge block down, then on top of the merge block, I need to go up a little bit higher. Then on top of that, I'm going to go with, I think, oxygen tank first. Then O2H2 generator on there. Cockpit at the front. Now, do I want to go that cockpit, this cockpit, or the fighter cockpit? I don't think I want to go the fighter cockpit. It's a bit... Or do I? It might look good on the side of the rocket. I think I'm going to go with the industrial cockpit. So I'm thinking about this on the side of the rocket, and I know that an industrial cockpit is a bit odd, but once it's in space, I think the industrial cockpit is going to look better. Especially with it, like if this module, I use it independently anyway. So, if I had to attach this directly to its 2 ports with the front 2 ports on that O2 tank, it would stick down too low below that merge block and it would probably lock to the other grid that I'm going to attach it to. So I need to create a bit of space, and I think a nice way to do that will be using these hydrogen tanks. I'm going to place one there and one there, placing these small conveyors through the middle. That should give me enough options for how I attach everything. And the industrial cockpit sits there. Take that one out because it shouldn't be there. Then I can put in another pair of small hydrogen tanks, knowing that these things don't hold much. But I think it's kind of nice to have the part of the tank on the outside. Since this is not a fighting ship, I'm not going to be covering this thing with armor. All of the blocks will be visible. The pretty blocks, the ones that give a bit of detail. A couple of curved conveyors in there, and then those 4 hydrogen tanks are piped. That should also allow me to place some small thrusters around here. Can pop one there. Pop one there. Now I need to figure out how I'm going to get a decent sized battery on this thing without it getting in the way of tubing. So I'm going to weld up the stuff that I've got, as I'm pretty happy with this shape. Oh, yeah. That could be interesting. I make this thing have, like, little wings on it. Nothing for any sort of purpose, but just more for style. This could be quite a cool little shape. Imagining two little downward angled wings on each side. What could I make of purpose? I suppose I could put guns on them. Even if they're not reloadable. It's tempting. I'm hoping to not need to use the Splitsie too much in here, but figured it was probably smart to bring it in for the bit of use I will get out of it. Since I don't really have another means to get up and down from here after I got rid of the connector that was there. I think it's kind of nicer to use the Splitsie for this anyway. I got battery there. So what else do I need on this? I've got the battery, I've got the thrust. I need to make sure I've got some forward thrust, some reverse thrust, some down thrust. And then I need to make sure I've got an antenna, remote control, gyroscope, and some cameras. Oh, it's going to be cool moving these pieces out into the open with the big crane as I get them completed. Sneaking in here, let's get the remote control orientated correctly. Get our gyro and then antenna. I think with the way I've got that battery, I could get away with having another few hydrogen tanks in here before I put my forward thrust on. So if I go hydrogen tank there, there, and then have conveyor, 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 I should be able to put one in the middle as well. So that's 7 small hydrogen tanks. That's not too bad. I really don't know how much that'll give me, but basically, if I'm piloting this thing on its own, I'm piloting in desperation. So I'm basically going to point at Omicron, around where my base is, accelerate up to 110 meters a second, and stop. And that's going to be the extent of the piloting that gets done with this. At least that's what I've got as an idea in my head. I know that I should plan around possibly things going very differently, but I would love to put that on there. I think it'd look kind of fun having this on the back of such a small vehicle. I might just go 3 of these. Do I feel like having daily needs stuff, as opposed to just bringing food and water with me, is a good idea? Should I have an emergency rations thingy on here as well? I don't have any means to create power on this, as it's currently set up. So I'm going to say no. I don't have means for power, I don't have means to make food, so there's no point taking the things to make it. Because if I run out of food, I'm probably going to run out of power anyway. Well, that's odd. Just noticed something that I'd never discovered before. The parachute hatch isn't in the assembler. See? No parachute. You can't order it up as a block. Why on earth would that be a thing? That's just bizarre. Odd. Odd, odd, odd. Can't explain that one. I was hoping to take the bits for it up on top on this trip so that I could place the parachute hatches down. I kind of like the idea of having the hydrogen thruster here, attached by a conveyor tube like that. Then on the rear, having the vertical pushing down thruster. Since this is in space, it's going to need to have that. I can't rely on gravity. Then what I think I might do is pop a vent here and here. The reason for the double is just for style. But the reason for the vent is I think it'd be worth filling this oxygen tank with oxygen from the atmosphere rather than using ice, so that I can use the ice for the hydrogen. Yeah, depressurize on for both of them. That should, yep, iron warm inside here. Then we go to our tank, which should be filling up at a decent pace. Sweet. It should take a very, very long time for that oxygen tank to run out. I think the industrial cockpit has enough volume inside it that I can use it as my cargo space for any food and water I need to bring on. So now the only stuff to do would be any style or any weapons that I decide to equip this with. But I really don't think I'm going to fight in this. The thought of putting weapons on here basically says to me, I know what you're going to do, Splitsie. You're going to turn and fight. No, I'm going to turn and die if I do that. So it's probably a very bad idea. I also did not realize that these hydrogen tanks were asymmetrical. As in they have different patterns on each side. I'll have to keep that in mind if I ever worry about that little wheel there not being on the other one. So what I need to make sure I do is keep clear the attachment point that's around this merge block. I don't want to accidentally merge the control module and the main stage to one another. I need them to be able to separate. Oh, hold up. I can put gun pods on this. I get rid of... Oh, should I do it? Should I put gun pods on it? I should. I will. I'm going to get rid of this conveyor tube here. Same on the other side. Because I just thought of exactly where Gatling guns could go on this. And they'll be in a spot that I think will look really cool. I should be able to mount them straight on those conveyor points. Now I'm thinking, if I come across anything that I might be able to pick off at a distance, this could be fun. Yeah. Another nice thing about having these guns on the side is that I should be able to use them as my cargo access. So if I want to just drop stuff into the cockpit, I can do it through the guns because they give me a cargo access point. Which is a little bit handy. And that looks kind of cool. Oh, yes. I love this thing now. This turned out as well as I could have hoped. Oh, I also need to do something. I haven't noticed it, but it is likely to show up in the time lapse. I am going to put some extra light in the garage here. It's really dark. So here's where I think the little wing pods, or maybe from here. Just a little bit, just something to give it a little bit of personality. So I feel like this could be one of those ships that I end up using a fair bit of. Because I don't see much need to build multiple rockets, hopefully. And now just... Oh! But now I could put a landing gear on there if I wanted to. I am slightly tempted to try and put some atmospheric thrusters on this too, just so that I could, if coming... Oh. No, I'm not going to. Where am I? Oh! I don't know what to do! So I was thinking I was kind of tempted to put some atmospherics on here, because then I'd be able to fly back home, or at least get closer to home, if I'm returning back here in an emergency. But I think this thing might weigh a little bit. So aiming for return flight is probably going to cost us too much. So no, I'm going to leave this with just the hydrogen. Oh, I think I have to get rid of this curve and put a junction on there so that I can get a parachute at the front. Ooh, unless I get rid of one of the vents. Oh, even better, even better. Get rid of both of the vents. Put 2 parachutes there. 2 parachutes at the rear. 4 is definitely going to be more than enough for me to have a gentle landing on almost any surface. And then put a junction where this conveyor is and put a vent facing backwards. Oh, Splitsie. I've forgotten an important thing. I need spotlights. I could put spotlights out on the wingtips too, if I wanted. But I may just put operating lights out there. Oh dear. I'm low on water, I'm low on energy, I'm low on oxygen. Let's fix 2 of those quickly. Oh. Alright. I need to... Yeah, I need to put some food in the desk instead of in the chair of the food truck. That makes so much more sense. And I'll leave any waste at my desk and just bring it back piece by piece. When I need to. Oh no. This desk doesn't have storage capacity. These couches don't either. Well, that sucks. Alright, this cargo container's gonna have to hold the food then. Couch, office, noms. This goes then. When I sit in it, I'll eat and drink to 125. No, not with synth food though. That and that. And when I sit down, I should go up to 125. Yeah, there we go. Something is very clearly filling that O2 tank. And I should probably investigate that because I'm probably wasting a lot of power doing it. We are getting a shape that I am starting to become reasonably happy with. I'm going to go and look this from the catwalk because that's what it was there for. Give me a nice little overlook of how the progress is going. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a nice, interesting shape. I just got to figure out how to do something interesting along the... Ooh, I was worried that was really going to hurt me. Ooh, that didn't hurt me though. Can I do more parkour? Up on the railing and then... Yeah. It's another option for getting on top of the builds. Right. Yeah, that side shape is interesting enough and has enough detail. Of course, this is light armor, so the protection value of it is 0. It's all for style. So don't stress over the whole fact that this has guns and I'm not covering up the valuable parts. They're not protected anyway. I am really going to want to avoid being shot in the back end. It will cause me no end of grief losing my 1 power source. Fact... No, I don't have any spots. Oh wait, I do. Could possibly squeeze some extra sneaky batteries in so that I don't just have that 1 point of failure. But they're going to have to be at the base of these wing pods. That's the only place I think I've got anything that's even slightly nested inside. And pop a little battery in there on each side. I'll at least have a teensy weensy little bit of backup power. We should theoretically be enough to deploy the parachutes. There you go. Little danger signs stick out. I was trying to carefully make sure that they would be visible still. There's a little bit of detail and interest. But I think once I've mirrored this to the other side, the command module is complete. Well, I mean, it needs a paint job. So I'm thinking about the color of this, which is the last thing I need to do after I've mirrored the armor patterning to this side. And the color I'm kind of thinking of going for would be a mostly grey. Let's grab the darker grey. Like that. With white and red accents. So still following on with the white and red kind of dominant colors, I guess is the term I'm looking for, that I've got elsewhere, but with a little less of them. Ow. And that there is the risk of parkour. You saved me time, but it does hurt. Then one block. Okay. Almost there. Almost got this finished. Not 100% sure on the paint job as yet, but I think it's a good placeholder and a good beginning anyway. Like, I'm fairly happy with it. I'm really happy with how this has turned out. There are a few areas of the paintwork that I think could use some work. I quite like the idea of having the winglets, sort of the little wings, kind of have that jagged bit of paint in them. I think it's a nice identifying feature of this little craft. Although, as I say that, I realize I have not finished painting this bit. The underside did not match the top. There we go. Oh, I'm really excited about this little design. It should function for its purpose, which is escape vehicle. Maybe short-range scout vehicle if I want to do a cheeky little recon run on something that I might have to shoot at a little bit. Like, the sort of thing I'm thinking of is if I found a wreck in space that has just an interior turret that's shooting at me, I could go in this and just pop that interior turret with the Gatling guns, because that'll be much safer than doing it in my suit. But generally speaking, those guns are mostly for show and not really for function. However, I would say that aside from a few little touch-ups here and there, this vehicle is ready to go. Don't think there's anything else I really need to do on it. I'll probably do some touch-ups on the paintwork over the coming weeks as I'm building the rest of the rocket. But I feel that that's it. That's done. Next time, what I can do is start building the main body. Keeping in mind how this attaches, and before I build that, I'll have to go outside and make an attachment point for me to hook this thing up to the base to keep its power charged. Keep its batteries fully charged to go and ready to go. So at the start of next time, I am going to be craning this onto wherever I've built a merge block for it to lock to, then getting to work on the main body of the rocket. And before I get too excited about that, let's not jump on the ladder, let's have a look in here and just make sure I've still got tons of iron left. Yes, I do. So there's all that, and plenty more to come, and I will see you then.